grown up around or seeing that if you put your mind to something and you lean into your gifts, that you can be successful. So it's always been in the back of my mind, and knowing that just staying true to what you're good at is definitely part of the deal. I think a lot of this is about learning from where we've come from and then using those lessons to help pave the future. That's really what's sort of driven me going forward. And I think that's when I do a lot of engagement work. It's about meeting people where they're at, understanding their stories and what matters to them, and then how do we find a mutual benefit path that we can all go forward on.
Welcome to the WA Leaders Podcast, where we talk to business owners from the beautiful Western Australia. We'll be listening to their stories, their insights and their challenges around their business leadership journey. And I'm sure that you'll be learning some tips and tricks along the way. I'm Dr. Paula Smith. I'll be your host for this episode, and I'm also a proud advisory board member for WA Leaders. Our first guest today is Nicole Lockwood from Lockwood Advisory. So Nicole has spent 20 years working across some of WA's most complex policy, governance and reform environments. She serves as a local board director and strategic advisor with a track record across government, industry and major public reform programs, often called in to help with issues that are entrenched, the stakeholders who are competing, and the path forward isn't always obvious. Most recently, she was honoured by Leadership WA, and she was recognised for sustained leadership impact across the state. A remarkable woman, but I'm sure you're going to find out that very soon. So a huge welcome, Nicole, to the WA Leaders Podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
You are welcome. So let's get started. Tell us a little bit about your world and your business.
So my business emerged, I suppose, from an opportunity that I saw in the market about 11 years ago. So started out as a lawyer. My path to environmental law, which was the plan, didn't quite play out. Spent a bit of time up in Karratha, became the mayor while I was there, and did a lot of work in economic development and regional development. And when I came back to Perth, started working at KPMG, leading their management consulting government practice. And whilst I loved the work, I just felt that big structure wasn't for me, and saw an opportunity to balance the program of boards that I had with advisory work of my own. So I branched out on my own about 11 years ago and have been doing it ever since.
Wow, so backtrack, you became the mayor. Was that deliberate? Was that intentional? Or did that just sort of happen?
Yeah. So went to Karratha with my husband's role at Woodside, had our first baby, wanted to give back to the community, and ended up at the Community Legal Centre, and just really saw the extreme haves and have-nots of a community like Karratha, and felt that there was a need to really try and help to adjust some of the social settings and the infrastructure outcomes. Because my husband said as we drove into town when we arrived, he'd lived there as a kid. He said, hasn't changed at all since I was here 20-odd years ago. So that kind of inspired me to think there must be a better way. And I thought, well, I'll run for council and see if I can help. And I did that, and very quickly decided that I wanted to do more, and so spent 2 years as a councillor, and then ran for the mayor role and got it.
And how long did you spend being a mayor?
So only 2 years as mayor, 5 on council. I lost the role, interestingly, from a very intense period of reform. So I was publicly elected with no worries and was on a real run. We were delivering a lot. But we had an internal vote to pick the mayor, and in the election at that point, we had one seat that wasn't filled, so we ended up having an equal number of councillors. So we had an internal selection, and we had an even number of votes. And the Local Government Act says when that happens, it's a name out of a hat. So my name didn't come out of the hat. And it was really interesting because I actually packed up my office before the election just on principle that I don't have any expectation that I have to take the role again or that it will be me, but I genuinely thought I would. And it didn't happen, and there was a big public shock because we were on a real run, and I had to step down. Well, I stayed on council, but I had to step out of the role and really rethink where I was headed.
But sometimes those things that happen in our life provide that space for creating new opportunities, I guess.
Definitely, and I think it was probably at a time my girls were very young, probably 3 and 5 by then, and I'd put a lot of my time and personal effort into the role, and it was probably consuming more of me than it should have. So it gave me an opportunity to step back and really rethink my priorities.
So you've had your business now for 11 years. So how's it going now in 2026?
Look, really well. Very different than how it started. I really sort of birthed it as a vehicle just to do some fun work that I wanted to secure. I've never taken on staff. I decided it was going to be a platform more to collaborate with others. So I work with other businesses and we partner on opportunities, but I've never employed people directly. And now I'm probably positioning it as a step into the future in terms of an opportunity I'm chasing now to look at moving to Europe in the new year. So,
that's exciting.
Yeah.
Whereabouts in Europe?
We're looking at the Netherlands. The visa situation there is quite conducive to independent consultancy. But there's a range of options in terms of looking at other roles that may be in other parts of Europe as well.
And how do your family feel about running away across the world?
Look, fine. I think we're all at interesting stages. My girls, the youngest, will be at uni by then. So opportunity for her to come and spend some time with us over there. The oldest one is already doing a lot of travel to Europe, so she's pretty excited. And my husband's in an area where he could also look at opportunities. So it's just one of those things I've always wanted to do, and it just feels like the timing's right.
So why Europe? Is there a particular niche in Europe that aligns perfectly for your goals?
Very much so. So for me, I started out obviously with a passion around the environment and climate. And my view at the moment is that Australia is still very conservative on the regulatory and policy front around climate change, industrial decarbonisation. I want to go and be amongst people that are really pushing hard and driving that change and learn from them so that I can bring that back to Western Australia, because I think that's something we really need to accelerate and learn those lessons. And a lot of the work I'm also doing is around systems change, and there's a lot of very progressive organisations, particularly based in the Netherlands, but more broadly in Europe, that are really thinking deeply about the systems change we need for the future world we're creating.
So here in Perth, Western Australia, who is your typical client?
So I've done a lot of work with government, so never been a public servant as such, but always worked alongside government, largely leading big complex system problems. So I've chaired the Westport Task Force, which was a sort of a look at the whole of the freight and supply chain for the state and what would happen to Fremantle Port. Yeah, that was fun. But also private clients, so clients looking, so particularly in the infrastructure, property, industrial sectors, looking at how they're going to reform their businesses to be looking, at the future of climate and how they're, I suppose from a risk perspective and an investment point of view, how they'll be better positioned for the future trends that are coming at us.
So 11 years, congratulations.
Thank
There's
you.
so many business owners that do not make it till 11 years. So what would you say some of your challenges have been, your biggest challenges in business to date?
Look, I've been pretty fortunate in the sense that because I've chosen to keep my business quite small, I've been able to pivot with what the opportunities are, and I think the economy has moved, in quite significant cycles in that period. So I've been able to scale and shrink to manage that in terms of what I take on, and also in terms of the partnerships I make with other organisations in terms of delivering work. I think the opportunity, reflecting on being part of a KPMG business, so looking at how big advisory firms work, I think more and more there's an opportunity for niche boutique solutions to problems. So I think there's a lot of people now going out on their own doing what I've done and pairing up with complementary skill sets to really tailor a solution to the client need rather than providing a generalist methodology that they can adapt. So I think that's when we look at the complexity of the problems we're solving, I think that's the sort of skill that's needed and the approach I think that will be more successful in the future.
And that's a skill that a lot of people are talking about, that future skill we need is how to work collaboratively with others and with other organisations.
That's it.
So, yeah. So funding your business maybe was not an issue because it was quite small.
Yes.
And you've chosen, I guess, other people and other people's resources, to grow and develop.
Look, I think as I've developed over time, I've drawn on external expertise using a lot of AI now, really drawing on – I started sort of with a virtual assistant, things like that, but really leaning in now to all of that capability that's sitting there that's allowing me to do things that I could not do before, both in terms of digesting information, creating an extra level of analysis and depth, and then my ability to present things in a way that was just beyond my capability. So I think the exciting thing in terms of what's being built in the ecosystem, both from a tech perspective and a capability point of view, is for individuals who run their own businesses like me, you can actually be a very professional outfit and not have all of those extra services sitting off you anymore, which is exciting.
And you mentioned AI, which of course is on everybody's lips at the moment, on not just using AI, but how to use AI effectively, for business growth and productivity and efficiency. So how are you using AI for your business?
Well, very much. So a lot of my work is review style work. So I go in and I have to obviously gather in a whole heap of information, often have a range of interviews, consultations with people to get a sense of what's going on and how we might, shift the plan forward. So just the digestion of information to give me a much clearer sense of what's already been done, what the opportunities are, which allows me, from a client's perspective, allows me to be much more focused in my work and probably then go a lot deeper. So if I reflect on I'm doing some work at the moment with a government agency. I did a similar piece for them 10 years ago. It's sort of like a capability review over an area. The way I'll do it now compared to what I did 10 years ago, chalk and cheese. And I said to them yesterday when we had our kickoff meeting, send me everything you've got. Now, in the past, I would have said, just give me that and that and that because I won't be able to. But now I can digest it all. You've got to be careful how you do that. But using the tools in the right way can give you a really rich sense of where to focus.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? So now you're also on a lot of boards. Yeah, so tell me about the boards that you're on and what drew you to each one of those boards. Like what impact did you think you were going to make on each one of those boards?
Yeah. So my board career started at the same time as my mayor role. So being in local government sort of gave you an in to be part of a board environment. Now I was 26 when I got my first board role, so totally out of whack with what the norm is. I think based in Karratha, female lawyer, probably a unique combination which just got me on the radar where otherwise I wouldn't. So I've had 20 odd years of board roles, and probably about 40 board roles over that period of time.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. And very, but quite different. So definitely some not-for-profits, range of government agencies and a number of private businesses. I've chosen never to go into the ASX space. It was, I think for me, having a legal background, the governance stuff I find it's interesting, but it's not really where my passion is. So I really want to sit in that strategy, business improvement space. So I suppose in the last 5 years, my roles have been a lot in infrastructure, and I've really been blessed over the course of my career to almost by accident assimilate a map of the whole of the sort of community, economy, environment picture. So I've almost done a role in every sector, which has been amazing because now I have a really sort of detailed understanding of how the system works together. And I haven't curated it. So what you find with boards is you tend to, you've got to find your way in to start with. In your first lot, you just get what you get. And then there's an opportunity to maybe be a little bit more targeted. The last sort of round of appointments, I probably went after those a bit more, sort of seeking things that were more at the system level rather than verticals. And now I've pulled right back from the board scene and I'm really wanting to get more hands-on, to be honest, because I feel like sitting at a board level, you're really limited with how much you can get your hands dirty on.
So you're looking at more of an operational, rather than the strategic boards?
That's right. So if I'm doing boards, it'll probably be advisory boards, which are a little bit closer to the action. Governance boards will probably be not where I'm at for now.
And you're also now a member of the WA Leaders Advisory Board.
I am.
Yeah. So what made your decision to come on board with WA Leaders? What attracted you to that role?
Look, in the last 5 years, I've spent quite a lot of time working with startups, which was a sort of an evolution of my portfolio. It wasn't something I was in at the beginning. And really sort of getting my head around the huge opportunity in WA for businesses that are emerging. And I think what I love about WA Leaders is it takes that next step. So those businesses, that startup phase is really hard and there's lots of energy needed in that, and that requires a certain skill set. But the next stage of growing and then sustaining a business is equally, if not harder, in some ways.
Absolutely.
And really, and also for a founder or an owner, continuing to maintain momentum and motivation about what they're doing. So I love the model. I love the fact that, everyone is, when you're on your own running your own business, it's lonely. I love the idea of wrapping that support around people and learning from each other. I was on the board of Leadership WA, which is a slightly different organisation, for 10 years. That's very much about individual personal leadership. I love this because it's about organisational capability and leadership, and I think it just really complemented that continuum of work that I've done from startups right through to big organisations.
And you're spot on. There is a lot of support for the startups, isn't there? But, it starts to get a little bit trickier in business that 5 years in and beyond when it comes to that growth and leveraging expertise and staff and, systems and, it's a whole different beast, isn't it?
Definitely.
So, excellent. So what do you really love about being in business?
Probably the independence of being able to choose how you spend your time, with whom you spend it. So my new mantra, I finished as the Chair of Infrastructure WA last month after 7 years. So that's actually felt like quite an opening of opportunity in the sense of I've got lots of time, I've got lots of headspace. And my criteria now is I want to work with people that I respect and admire on work that I'm excited about, who like to work fast because I like to get stuff done. And it's really cool being able to just position yourself and your business in the place that interests you the most and then see what comes or catalyse opportunities as a result. And I think, starting your day knowing the day is what I want to make it, that's pretty empowering.
And is that you personally as well? High action, fast, go, go, go.
Yeah, it is a bit. Everyone around me says I move too fast. I just say they move too slow. That's okay. I do have a very fast pace, and my brain works over time. But I also love working with other people. So that's learning how to reset that speed to be able to, when we need to bring people alongside and go at whatever pace they need.
Well, there's a saying, it's a fast brain is an entrepreneur's brain. I mean, never shutting off.
Well, it's funny because when I studied law, I never would have thought of myself like that. And then when I got into the startup space and met entrepreneurs, I'm like, and I don't think of myself as a creative. And the more I've learned, I'm like, I actually am. Like I'm more of an entrepreneur than I am anything else. So it's quite interesting.
No. Now, you talked about you've worked with some really inspirational people along the way. Can you think of a couple of people who have really inspired you along your business journey?
So right at the beginning when I was a counsellor at the City of Karratha, a guy by the name of John Lally, he was one of the counsellors there. He was probably approaching 70 at the time and became a real amazing guy, school teacher but to start with, and then just a huge community advocate, would put so much time into different groups and just so focused and committed to community outcomes. And he ended up becoming my deputy when I was the mayor, and we just had an amazing journey together. And he was such an inspiration because he had so much energy, and it just made me realise that age was not an issue, and his outlook was as young as anyone younger than me, and he's still going now, doing amazing things. And it's just so wonderful to see people that have just got that energy and inspiration and can give back throughout their whole lives. So he was definitely a key person.
And a whole life full of wisdom to share.
Yeah.
So we have these multi-generational workforces now.
Yeah.
And when we capitalise on that, what amazing things we can do together, but really capitalising on that wisdom, years and years of wisdom that you just can't buy.
That's it.
You have to live it, don't you?
Yeah.
So,
and I think then I've been blessed to have a lot of amazing interactions with quite high-profile people by virtue of the roles that I've had. And all of them I've learnt something from, that they're all there for a reason, whether or not you believe in what they believe in, just really absorbing that and taking the benefit of being able to sit alongside has been a real gift.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we're going to take a short break now and we'll be back. So we're just going to take a short break and we are going to hear from Rupin Kutcher. Rupin is the founder of WA Leaders.
Hi, it's Rupin from WA Leaders. For the past 10 years, we've been helping businesses to accelerate growth. We do this by surrounding them with knowledge, connections, and resources to propel their business forward, with personalized guidance from 20 world-class experts across key areas, which include growth and scaling up, innovation, strategy, and exit planning. Plus, you become part of a powerful community of 150 like-minded business owners so that you are never alone on your business journey. If you're a business owner looking to accelerate your growth and financial success, reach out to us at waleaders.com.au.
Welcome back. So, Nicole, we've heard a little bit about your business journey now. Do you mind if we get a bit personal now?
Of course.
It's not therapy. We're not going to dig too deep into your childhood.
No worries.
But tell us a little bit of how it started. What did you do at school? Where did you grow up? Tell us about your parents. Were they in business?
So grew up in Perth, went to Santa Maria College. had a passion for the environment from a project I did in year 5 where we were looking at the hole in the ozone layer. Yeah. And for whatever reason, it hit me and it became a real burning
And you would have been about,
issue.
10 years old at that time?
Yeah. And so from there I then started spearheading community things. I had a group at school, environmental group that I started and all sorts of bits and pieces. But that was it was sitting at the core for me that if we don't solve this environmental problem, then what is there? My dad was in property and a developer and builder. So, yes, very much an entrepreneurial gene in our family. My nana started the first Shell service station in Australind in the 50s, maybe 60s. Female owner. So I've grown up around seeing that if you put your mind to something and you lean into your gifts, that you can be successful. So that's it's always been in the back of my mind, and knowing that, just staying true to what you're good at is definitely part of the deal.
Yeah, I guess looking up to your nan and that type of business
Definitely.
in the 50s and being a woman in that non-traditional type of role would have been, amazing for her.
Yeah, it
and
was.
probably a bit challenging too.
Yeah, definitely. And she was, right through her life. She died, she was almost 100 when she died, and she was very much always just my biggest supporter.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it? She'd be very proud now, saying, go Nicole. Okay, so what were your favourite subjects at school? Well, besides anything to do with the environment, because we know that you were pretty passionate about that area.
Look, humanities were probably more of my strong. I'm good at sciences, but I probably leant into the humanities. I initially started out wanting to be a historian because I love stories and I love history. But I learnt that, and actually law is interestingly quite a version of history. There's a lot of history in law, so it's probably why it made the degree interesting. But I think a lot of this is about learning from where we've come from and then using those lessons to help pave the future. So that's really what's sort of driven me going forward. And I think that's when I do a lot of engagement work, it's about meeting people where they're at, understanding their stories and what matters to them, and then how do we find a mutual benefit path that we can all go forward on.
So your undergraduate degree was in law?
Law. So I did a Bachelor of Law and a Bachelor of Business majoring in environmental management.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, and I guess it's come in pretty handy along the way.
Yeah, kind of full circle.
Yeah.
I started out wanting to be an environmental lawyer, and then the practice I was at closed that part down, so that didn't happen. But then I've come all the way back using infrastructure as a Trojan horse, and I'm back at the beginning, which is cool.
So what was your first job?
Professionally, was an article clerk at Cause Chambers West Garth.
When you say professionally, go back even further. Did you have a job when you were at school?
Yeah. As I said, my dad was a builder. So I used to clean houses when they were finished before they got handed over. So that was going into houses after all the trades had left and dealing with everything they'd left behind, which was quite an experience.
Very different, very different. And did you
money in my teens.
Dispose of all that extra rubble ethically?
Right. That's right. Well, I don't know about that. I think it was a skip bin at that stage. It was more dealing with cleaning the bathrooms and toilets that disturbed me, but other than that, it was fun.
So you mentioned that you have a couple of children. Yeah, are they following your mum's footsteps? Or are they paving their own career? Have you rubbed off on them?
I think in terms of approach and drive, 100%. They're very different in terms of what they're interested in. So one's pursuing nursing, one's in ag science, but both very, very driven in their own ways, very willing to say what they think and just doing amazing things themselves, and really, I think, seeing their own potential and not being shy to chase it, which I'm so proud of.
Yeah. So if you could go back at any time, from school up until now, is there anything you look back and go, I wish I would have done that differently?
No. And it's probably because everything that's happened, good and bad, has brought me to this point.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
What you learn, for yourself and your own sort of processing is so important. And if I didn't do it then, I would have had to have done it at another point. So I kind of think the earlier the better when things happen, and then, get on with life.
So what was that moment in your career that you said, I think I want to go out on my own. I think I want to run my own business?
So it was at KPMG when I realised, so consulting firms are amazing in the sense they kind of provide you with a house to sit in and to run your own small business effectively. But what I realised at that point, we were in an environment where we were at sort of second term of Barnett government. There wasn't a lot of spending going on. I was in government advisory, which was hard. And what I realised was I could sell myself and my capability, I was struggling to sell a team. And I had a couple of board roles and I really liked the idea of being the master of my own destiny and thought, you know what, I'm just going to back it and go and see. And I got one contract that was like a retainer a couple of days a week. And I'm like, look, that's enough to get me started. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, I'll try something else. And it worked.
And has there ever been a time that you go, I wish I had a real job?
No. The only thing is when you don't sit under a big title or a big brand, you don't – so what I've found is there's certain roles that I've had that have given me license to open doors. So Infrastructure WA, for example, was a role that would allow me to convene groups, to have conversations, to be invited to things. If you are a small business owner and that's all and you don't have other roles, it's harder to get profiled, to get cut through. So I would say I've craved at times – because I love systems, I've always said if I was to do an executive role, it'd have to be in an organisation that was very broad to give me opportunity to cut across. But I've really steered away from that because I've gone, you know what, I love the portfolio. I love being able to kind of pick and choose, to sit across and to cross-pollinate because a lot of what I do is connecting people. And when you're sitting with one organisation, you've got their hat on, it's much harder to do that.
Okay, so we've been learning a lot about you and you're obviously very passionate about the work that you do and that just comes through in spades. So it's now time for the quick fire questions, okay? It's the first thing that comes to your mind, okay? Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
So what's the single most important factor that you believe makes a successful business leader?
Self-understanding. So
self-understanding.
Knowing who you are, what you're good at and what you're not good at.
So, excellent. Okay, if you were to wave your magic wand right now over the local business scene, what wish would you want for them?
That they could see how amazing they are and how much more potential they have and reach further into other markets, global spaces and promote themselves more.
So you think WA is pretty unique, a unique business environment?
I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
What makes it unique?
When I was in the Pilbara, there was very much a feeling of a pioneer spirit. You know, you go somewhere like that and people are blazing a trail. And I actually think it's in our DNA everywhere in this state. And I think that's unique, that can-do attitude, that feeling of endless opportunity. I don't think we really lean into that enough.
Yeah, excellent. Now, how can anyone listening to this podcast help you, Nicole?
By looking for wicked problems that need to be solved, that need what I call a brokered solution, so a transition brokerage. Because I think there's a lot of things holding this state back, and if we could get to the heart of those complex issues, we could unlock those opportunities.
And you can help them do that.
I can. Contact me on LinkedIn.
Now, you've talked about somebody that you admire, who was your colleague when you were in local government. Who's another WA leader that you admire? Could be a politician, someone in media, could be a family member. Who's one from WA you admire the most?
I do find that a hard question to answer because I have such a broad group that support me. I've been privileged to work alongside the last Premier, Mark McGowan, the current Premier, Roger Cook, both outstanding in their own right, very, very different leaders. I've learned a lot from them. John Langalont, who was my previous chair, was an amazing leader, very bold, very brave to speak. The current CEO of Infrastructure WA, Phil Hellberg, who most people might not know, phenomenal leader, wonderful people person. I've had some phenomenal women in my life. Again, women that maybe people don't know of. Paige Walker, who's the CEO of 5/8, which is the Forest Company's property group. Tanya Steinbeck. There's so many people I could go on.
I guess great leadership isn't always loud, is it? It's some of those people who are supporting others who are
Well, and when we say we need
leadership.
a village to raise a child, it's no different in business. And I think if you've got a village around you, then you're halfway there.
Yeah, that's great. What do you do to get away from it all? What does Nicole time look like?
I love the beach. I love yoga. I love Pilates. I love food, cooking. I do play the piano occasionally. And I've got right back into sewing recently. So my daughter and I are doing sewing classes. And
you said you weren't creative.
So, yeah.
So thank you so much for coming along and sharing some of your insights and stories. There's lots and lots of value in there. So huge thank you. We look forward to perhaps having you on the podcast from the Netherlands, maybe in a year or two.
Sounds amazing.
So good luck with all your travels, and we'll miss you if you go.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So we've recorded this podcast from the gorgeous Podwave Studios here in Leederville, Western Australia. You can find the WA Leaders podcast on your favourite podcast platform. And if you like it, share it with others, because great leadership is worth sharing.